Are you pretty much?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
So you're just gonna fire away, yeah?
Yeah, let's just go.
Right,
Get into it.
We're rolling, bro. Welcome to the podcast. I was about to
Thank
say
you,
channel.
Jamie.
I'm too used to YouTube, bro.
Yeah, pleasure to be on. Thank you. Honoured to be the second guest, I think.
Second guest.
Yeah.
What do you think of my podcast studio?
It's sick.
Don't make me feel
Honestly,
nice, bro. It's blind in here.
And you guys can't see outside of here,
Yeah.
but it's amazing.
It's nice. But I feel like I need to make it my own. I've got a little officially gassed number plate
Yeah, I
behind
noticed
me,
that in the last one.
but that's about it.
Yeah.
But with time, in fact, who needs jazzy surroundings when you got guests like you?
Yeah.
And let me put some respect on your name. Imran from Evolve, entrepreneur, businessman,
Yep.
petrol head,
Yes.
all-round nice guy.
All rolled into one.
I've been lucky enough to spend some time with you lately. We've collabed on a few videos.
Yep.
We won't get into it too much now. But
Yeah,
the
we'll
last
talk
one
about
was
it a bit later on.
yeah, it
that
was
was definitely emotional. Right?
emotional.
You know,
Yeah.
you can do something and you say, "Bro, that was emotional." That definitely was.
That was a real emotional
Yeah.
one. But as I say, we'll get into that a little bit later. So with the flow of the podcast, what I like to do is obviously start from the beginning.
Sure.
So I like to ask where it all started. Everyone has a different journey, a different story into kind of cars.
Yeah.
And as much as perhaps this podcast isn't only based on cars, I know you're a petrol head, so I want to kind of start from the beginning and ask you where you grew up and how did you get into cars?
Yeah, so I was actually, a lot of people don't know this, I was born up north. So I was born in Rochdale, a small town near Manchester. And fortunately for me, my family moved down south when I was 9 months old and they moved to Luton. So I grew up in Luton. I still live in Luton. The businesses are all based there.
Cool.
As well. I think just like anyone around our age or my age, I'm quite a bit older than you.
Generation, right?
I'm a whole generation
Yeah.
above you.
It's quite funny because me and DMO were speaking about the generation below us. So you again.
Yeah,
have got
I'm
that
a
other
generation
jump.
above you guys.
Yeah.
But for me, again, it was, I grew up, my dad was into cars. He always had like a sporty hot hatch type car. So he couldn't go full on sports because his car had to be everything.
Got you.
So he had like Astra SRI, he had a hot hatch that had
They
5
were
doors.
cool though. They were
Yeah,
for a
back
young
then.
kid. They were cool.
Yeah, they were cool. And so he used to buy car magazines. And as a kid, I remember like just going through the magazine, just memorizing 0 to 60 times, horsepower figures,
Okay.
what the top speeds were. And
Yeah.
as a kid then, I would be rating the cars
Yeah.
on, oh, Dad, why didn't you buy that car?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
0 to 60 in like 0.2 of a second faster than the one you've got. And
Do you
he'll
know
be
what's
like,
crazy?
son, it doesn't work like that.
Bro, even going back like to when I was younger, and then you would have been again, you'd have probably been a teenager when I was really getting into cars at a young age, probably around 8, and I was looking at like car books and everything like that. And I remember a car that could hit 150 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Bro, that was supercar.
Yeah, that was super.
That was a supercar
for
from
sure.
what I remember. I thought, that was crazy. In fact, what's funny is the more exhaust it had. If it had 4 exhausts,
Then it was the one.
it was a mad car.
Yeah.
2 exhausts, it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
1 exhaust, normal, like, you know what I mean? So what actually, what took it from a love of cars to, well, we'll get to you starting your business, but what was your first car? What was your transition into actually owning one?
So up until I went to I didn't have a car until I left uni. So before that, I'd be driving like whatever my mum had. She had like the first car I learnt to drive in was a Renault 9. Do you even remember those?
9.
Yeah.
I know a Renault 5.
It's like a small saloon. So it's like
Okay.
almost like a saloon version of a 5, little bit bigger.
Okay.
And then after that, I think she had a Nova 1.2, which kept getting. I used to take that car everywhere. And everywhere I went, it would just get stolen. I remember going to Alexandra Palace once for a concert.
Yep.
And we went to the concert. We came back out. Car was gone.
Gone.
It's like, oh my god, not again! It would get stolen from outside our house. I don't know what it was about that car.
They
People
just
would
gave
get
themselves
in it,
away.
just drive it down the road. It was insane.
Oh, man.
But then when I finished uni and I got my first job, the first car I bought myself was a Peugeot 306 1.4.
Okay.
So I couldn't afford, or I didn't want to spend that much money on insurance. So it was the same blue as the XSI.
Yeah.
The metallic
Yeah, yeah.
blue. So I bought that with money I'd actually invested in shares. So I sold the shares and I bought that car cash.
So you've
the
been
time.
smart, business minded from a young age.
Well,
if you're
I've
doing
got
kind of
that from my dad. I'm not as clever as with money as he is. I am now. I've got to that stage now, but it took me a long time to get there. But those investments were made by him, so I'm not going to take credit for that. But it was my money, if that makes sense.
That's
so
cool.
first thing I did was, okay, I'm selling them, half of them anyway, I'm buying a car, right?
Yeah.
So I bought that, and then that was the first car I actually modified.
Okay.
myself. So I think I stuck some TSW Hockenheim wheels. Do you remember
Okay.
those?
Yeah. TSW. Yeah.
TSW
yeah.
wheels,
yeah.
and they were like 16-inch. And then I lowered the car and I put like a sound system in it.
Did you have the neons though, bro?
No neons.
Oh,
no neons.
Were neons about when you first? Like, not even taking a piss. Like,
No, I don't think so. I think the first time I saw neons was, it's got to be, no, Fast and Furious kind of brought them back, didn't it? But yeah, it was a little bit before that.
I feel like a
little bit before that.
Yeah.
So I think proper Max Power Day. So when Max Power magazine was at its peak, I was 16.
Okay.
So I was in college. So I remember being in college, buying those magazines, maybe even in high school, and we just like, buy them.
Yeah.
Then it like turned into soft porn after a while. You couldn't even leave them at home.
It proper
I'm
did,
Asian, right? You can't, when the cars start opening, we're like, get out of here, you know? So yeah, so I think neons was probably around that time. I was around 16. So we're to jump forward to my first car being 21. So I think that's all kind of
Passed
a little bit. And that whole crazy modifying scene is starting to calm down, and it's more getting to subtle things. So yeah, that was the first car I bought. I had a really good sound system in there because I always love audio, even at home. So I always like having a good audio system. So that transferred that to the car. I had a mini disc player in there.
Mini disc.
Mini disc?
Bro, there'll be people watching this who don't even know what that is.
Yeah, so
bro, that's going back
disc,
generations.
like
Explain, bro.
Yeah, so after CD, you had tape players, and then you had CD players. So you'd have like a CD multi-changer in the car. And then mini disc came out. Now mini disc was a small, like smaller than a 3-inch disc.
Yes.
So they're really good for like, so I had a mini disc Walkman as well. So you could put like you could put one album on it.
Yep.
But it was just much smaller than a CD and much easier to carry around.
That's right.
Like you didn't have to be precious
with
them. You could just fling them around because they were protected, right? So yeah, that's a mini disc. I had one of those in there. And then the car I bought after that was a Volkswagen Bora 1.9 TDI.
Wow, you went the diesel route, yeah?
Yeah,
Diesel,
only because at that time I had a job and I had to commute 60 miles each way.
Wow.
So then, yeah, I had to buy something economical. And again, I modified it. So I lowered it, put some Wolf Race wheels on it, I think they were.
Okay.
And again, but this time with the sound, I actually went a little bit further. And I did this Sony head unit that you had to run an amp with. So I had 6 phono outs.
Okay.
To a JBL amp, and then like Rockford Fosgate sub and Infinity mids and tweeters, and the sound was just because I was spending so much time in the car. I was I want the sound to be like really good. And then I got a job in London, and because I'm living in Luton, like you'd always commute by train.
Got you.
So at that point, it was like, okay, I'm getting paid a reasonable amount of money now, and I don't have to use a car during the week at all for commuting because I could walk to the station. So I bought my first performance car and my first BMW, which led me down the path I've gone, and that was an E30 M3.
No way.
Yeah.
So you went from a diesel Bora to the M3.
Yeah, E30 M3 icon. So as a kid, again, when I go back to the magazines, I remember seeing E30 M3s, UR Quattros, Lancia Integrales, those boxy 80 cars. Love them. I like, when I grow up, I have to have one of those. And that was probably at the bottom of the E30 M3 market. So I bought it was a good example. So well looked after, a lot of maintenance. It was hell rot, so red. And I think I bought it for like 8 or 9K at the time.
Joking.
Yeah.
Bro,
and it was
they
really
go for
clean.
a lot right now.
Now they go for a lot. Yeah.
Wow. You haven't still got it, have you?
Unfortunately not, because I lent it to my friend and he wrote it off.
No.
Yes.
Shout him out, bro. Name and shame.
No. He knows who he is.
Shame on you.
He knows who he is. And it was only because he had to pick it up from the mechanics from me at that time. I don't know. Yeah, he just lost control of it and just crashed it, is what it is.
That's crazy. So that then took you down the BMW route.
That took me down the BMW route. So at that point, I'm still not doing Evolve or any business. I'm doing my normal corporate job, which was I'm actually a lawyer by trade, so that's what I was doing before I jumped over. I had an opportunity to buy a Z3M Coupe after that.
No way. Okay.
Yeah, and that is the car that actually made me go into business.
Okay.
Because I bought a Z3M Coupe at the time. There was always people like claiming, spurious BHP figures on products, and and I was always of a slightly scientific mindset, and I was like, I want to, does this actually do something? So there was a place down the road from me, not far away, that had the only dyno in the town.
Okay.
I think they were called PTS or something like that, and they're not around anymore. And so I took I had a baseline dyno run.
Okay.
Done.
What did she make?
And then I started putting on these like K&N induction, put a K&N induction kit on, all open, right?
Okay.
Sucking in hot air.
Yeah.
Like they claim like 20 horsepower.
Yeah.
Lost 10.
Lost 10, yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Oh,
and then my dad I think he had this thermocouple thing which could read temperatures. Okay. So, I put it in the stock air box, put it outside the car, and I was measuring the difference between the ambient and the intake temperature. And on the stock air box, say it's like 10 degrees. Okay, that's fairly good. Okay. Then you stick it in the K&N and it's like 30 degrees. Wow. Like, okay, well, yeah, obviously that's why it's not working. And then I went to another company that did the ECU tune on it, and that did make power. So that was like 15 horsepower.
Okay. What were they stock? What did it make stock?
Stock, I think it made just under. So that's the S50 B32 engine, which is in the E36 M3 Evo.
Okay.
And it's quoted at 321 because they wanted to say it had 100 horsepower per litre. Okay. But none of them made 320.
Oh, no way. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it was just under 300. It was like 299 or 300 horsepower.
Okay.
It made.
Still strong, though.
Yeah.
Still strong.
Yeah, pretty strong. And then I worked with another company called Samota, and we wanted to make an intake kit for it. And there wasn't one. So we went to he's my mate now, but Graham at Sandspeed in Bexley Heath. He was a distributor for Samota. We went down there. He was like, okay, let's see if there's any other kit that fits this car, and let's see if it works. So we went down there. He's trying all these different housings, and I think it was a Renault Clio 197.
Okay. Yep.
Intake. We turned it like upside down, so it actually fitted in the engine base. Okay. It fitted, and we tried it, and it like made like 11 or 12 genuine.
Really?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
at the time,
wow.
Yeah.
And that was a closed filter or open filter?
It wasn't closed, but because it was butted up so far against where the air inlet was coming from. So on the Z3M Coupe, on the right-hand side, it doesn't have fog light. It has an air channel that goes directly up into the airbox.
Got you.
So it was feeding it. So there was no problem with heat.
Hot air, yeah.
So then with that car, I went to like a couple of events, and I was going faster. So you're talking about, I can't remember what they're called now, but like the precursor to VMAX, essentially.
Okay,
right?
got you.
And I was beating cars from tuners, whoever was around at that time. So those owners started taking notice, and I was obviously involved in the forums and all the groups. And they were like, okay, whatever you've done to your car, can you do that to my car? Okay. And I'm like, that's not my job. This is not what I do.
Yeah.
But I thought, okay, I've always been a little bit of a hustle in a good way, like making money from here and there. And I was like, okay, well, I think I can make something out of this. So the guy I was buying parts off, I would say, yo, look, if I buy some parts off you, can you do me a little bit more discount because I want to like sell them on to other people? He said, yeah, that's fine, I'll do that. And then at the time, my mechanic, John Legg from BM Technica, he's still around. Shout out to you.
Shout out to him. Yeah,
I used to go to him he used to do all the work on my cars because he's ex-BMW tech, like really trustworthy guy. So then I would buy the parts from this guy, the customers would give me their Z3M coupes, and I would take them to John, and then he would fit all the parts.
Okay, so you was just like brokering.
Yeah, I was essentially brokering. Then the customer would pay me, then I would pay those two guys. I'd done that for a little while. And I was like, I think I can, like, then I got one, then I got two. And I thought, I think I can, like, make something out of this. I'm passionate about cars. I love it. I understand how to market to these guys now because I'm involved in the communities. So back then, that was the equivalent of social media marketing. There was no Instagram or Facebook, but forums were, like, the big thing, right? And then I started a web shop selling parts. And then that started growing. And I was like, okay, I need to get like a unit now. So at this time, I'm still working.
How old would you be around this time?
I would have been around just under 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just under 30.
Cool.
So started quite late, realistically, compared to like other people I know. I found my way in the end. So yeah, so I thought, okay, I need to take this a bit more seriously. It's getting to a level where I can't balance a bed. So I was going to work full time, and I was doing, this was my side hustle, right?
Yep.
So I was doing this like in the evening, coming home, eating dinner, 7 o'clock to 12 o'clock, dealing with all the inquiries, sorting everything out, going back to work. So I did that for probably 6 months to a whole year.
Yeah. Takes its toll.
Yeah. I'm not shy of hard work. So even as I was growing up, during the holidays, I would always go and work like in a factory. Whatever, sandwich making factory, garlic factory, you name it. I needed to earn money. I'd go and earn.
Do you know what? It's good to hear that. Some people have got it in them, and it seems like
that gave me a good grounding. Like I'm not from like a super wealthy family, but I didn't go without. I would class my family as like they're probably middle class. Right? My dad's a professional. He's an engineer. He's always had a decent job, but I was never spoiled.
Yeah.
So
perfect. You know the value of a pound.
So I got the necessities for what I needed to live and whatever, but no extravagances, right? So for any extravagance I want, say if I wanted nice clothes or I wanted nice trainers or whatever like that, that was on my own back. I had to go graft for that, which is fine, but I'm glad I had to do that. But that work ethic has never left me. When you're capable of going into, like when you're 17, 18, going to a factory and doing a 12-hour shift in a bakery, which I did in Aylesbury actually.
No way.
That if you can do that, then you understand what work ethic is. And I just applied that to something else that I was passionate about. And that's part of the reason why we're successful, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect
sense.
Then,
so that's why I was able to do my full-time job, do this as a side hustle. And then it got to a stage where I just couldn't, I had to make that jump.
Yes. It's one or the other.
It's one of those things, because you can carry on doing a side hustle, which is fine. You'll stay where you are and it's good living, right? You're getting paid fully from your full-time job. You're making all this extra money. But then I think at some point you have to decide, is this something that you want to do? Do you want to carry on doing both and being in the position you're in, or do you want to take a chance and do something bigger? You
know, I had exactly the same. In fact, I've just went through exactly the same thing. Obviously, a slightly different kind of, I moved into something different than you did. I went from working a full-time job to YouTube full-time. And for the longest time, there was a big crossover. For about 3 years, there was a crossover, and I literally worked every hour under the sun and night, in fact. And it gets to the point where, you can see the progress in one, but then there might be a cap on the other. Like my workplace, it's not all about money to me, but it's about enjoyment. But, you want to make a better life for yourself. And I found with my work, it got to the point where I thought, all right, cool. So if I keep doing what I'm doing here, in 5 years' time, where could I be?
Yep.
And even if I had hit every target I wanted to and got to the top of the hill, it was still not great. Capped. It was okay. It was still capped.
Yeah, let's be honest. If you're working in a job, you are capped.
You're capped. You're making someone else money.
Unless you're even if you're in a sales job and you're commission-based, your cap is higher.
Yes.
But the person who owns that company is always going to be making bank off you. And necessarily doesn't even have to be doing the work. And that's not a bad thing, because let's be honest, Jamie, you know this. Having a business or entrepreneurship is not for everyone.
Of course.
There's a lot of people out there that make it look very glamorous. And maybe I can be a bit guilty of this, because maybe I don't realize what I'm putting out there. So if people see on my Instagram, all they see is cars. And when we're traveling around for work, they see us flying around everywhere. But there's genuine hard graft behind it, and this better than anyone.
A lot of people just see the end goal.
They see the result.
They don't see the journey.
They don't see the journey. No one sees the journey. And the journey, I would say, I've got a lot of friends now who are entrepreneurs. I don't think any of them have not had a rough ride to get where they are. I think everyone almost gets to breaking point. And I don't know if you've got to that point.
It's been
you have to give up. Even when I started Evolve, and like second year in, it's really hard, not really bringing any money in, when we're used to being like, I had a good paid job. My wife had a good paid job. She got pregnant with my first son. She never went back to work, got a house, got a mortgage, not getting any money. That's difficult when you're used to being comfortable.
Yeah. I find with going back to my journey and the crossover, that like you might be doing both. You might be balancing them, and you're right. Nice little money coming in from a side hustle, but sacrifices that people don't see and that will really kind of take it, like you'll feel it. You'll feel it hard. They go on, and I suffered lots of sacrifices. Shout out to my missus, because
for being standing. Shout out to both the misses.
Yeah, because wow, like
the whole journey,
in a way, my sacrifice was funny. I'm a gym guy. We spoke about this off camera. I love gym, and something had to give. So I was working and I was YouTubing, and then obviously the quality time and the misses and this and socializing that. But again, look, you have to make sacrifices.
Yes.
And then going back to it, eventually it got to the point where I thought, I can see a future with YouTube.
Yeah.
It's risky, especially this climate, at least for me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but it got to the point, it was a crossroads. I can do this or I can do that. And I've made the jump.
But Jamie, look, if you didn't make that sacrifice, you wouldn't be in the position you're in now. And that's the same for most people who have a successful business. They've been through that. They've sacrificed that. And I think then it becomes very easy from the outside looking in, just looking at the success.
Exactly.
And thinking, look at this guy. All he does is get in front of a camera and make some videos. And he's like, you know, he's earning good money. He's everywhere. We see him, you know, with that person, with this person.
Do you know what's crazy, right? I actually, thinking back to it, I get quite a lot when I kind of meet up with people for doing features and things like that. They say, like, you must love what you do. And believe me, I love it with a passion, right? But again, you're living in a moment and it's all rush, rush, rush. It's hard to appreciate what you're doing. I'm driving amazing cars, having experiences that people, like, you know, perhaps never had, but they just see the video. They don't see all the hard work.
The editing.
The night before.
The editing,
do you know what I mean?
crazy.
The editing, the 8 hours.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't do that. I feel for you guys because, and I know what goes into it because we as a company try and make 2 videos a week. I have a full-time video guy and editor. Literally, he's salaried. He gets paid a wage and that is his only job.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is present. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he even thinks of most of the ideas. And
that's not even easy, bro. Presenting that easy.
I know
again,
it's not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like to make that level of video, like sometimes like it could be a day of filming, half a day of filming to make 2 10-minute videos because our production value is quite high.
Yes.
And we do lots of like drone stuff and all that kind of stuff. So for YouTubers like you guys, I fully get and respect the amount of craft you put in because when you put out a 10-minute video, I know that's like day of filming. Another half day of editing.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know what? As much as when I'm living in the moment, it's hard to kind of take in what I'm doing. When it's been perhaps 2 weeks after the video has been released or a month, even 6 months, I look back on that video and I'm like, wow. Yeah. Like that was it, and then I can take it in. So that's when I kind of get my glory. That's when I kind of really sit back and think, wow, I love what I do. But for people, again, they just see it straight away and think, oh, he's living a life. The graft, mate. But anyway, enough about me. Back to you.
Let's go back. Yeah, so started Evolve, doing stuff for people with Z3M coupes, and then I had a business partner at the time, so we co-founded Evolve together, and I bought him out 2014, so he's no longer in the picture. So we bought a dyno Dynamics.
Okay.
And we just got an industrial unit, and the dyno arrived before we even cleared the paperwork on the unit because there was some hold up with the legal paperwork. It's taking ages. Dyno sitting in the docks. Oh, no. Lucky the guy who imported it for me, who sorted out all the shipping, he was a friend of my uncle's. So he said normally we'd be charging someone rent.
Wow.
To hold this here.
Yeah, it's not a small item.
Yeah, as you know, I'm your uncle's mate. It's cool here, but just like try and get it out as soon as you can. So we got our first unit, got the dyno, started playing around with our own cars. So that's how we started. We were actually trying to develop tuning and parts on our own cars. Okay. And we've carried that kind of through. That's why we have so many project cars.
Strictly BMW from the beginning?
Yeah, it was BMWs from the beginning, purely because those are the cars that we owned and liked, and we were involved in the communities. And we did actually start doing a lot of like Range Rovers at the time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So we were tuning cars for like Hawk and Revere, the diesel stuff. And then we started to do a lot of VAG stuff. I don't know how we kind of dropped into that. And then with the E46 M3, we started going really deep into that. And we kind of left all the VAG and the Range Rover stuff behind. And I think because of the E46 M3, that's why we're kind of known as M-Power specialists, if that makes sense. Because I would say that makes up for Evolve probably 90%. Wow. Like we do hardly any non-M stuff. Like, you know, even M140i is very popular. M340i's, they make up a really tiny part. It's like
that's interesting.
They're all M owners gravitate towards us, probably because we own the cars and we like test them and show what they're capable of doing. I think having the car itself and knowing it inside out as much as you can, I think that gives people a lot of confidence to come to you. And if you want to demonstrate something to them, you say, okay, we can take you out in our car and you can check it out.
And I guess once if you're passionate about the thing you're working on, you're enthusiast to yourself, and you've got a tried and tested track record.
Yep.
It just makes sense to bring the car.
Just start snowballing. You do
people,
one,
right?
and then that owner like buys another car, and then they bring that to you. They tell their friends. So a lot of our marketing has always been like word of mouth, if that makes sense. And in the early days, it was forums, and then it was getting into magazines and actually getting editorial on the cars rather than just the advertising.
How long has your business been running now?
So Evolve's been going since 2007, so that's 14 years.
No way.
Yeah, so we'll be 15. Evolve will be 15 January 2021. So I want to do something special.
That's crazy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I want to build. So for Evolve 10-year anniversary, we basically built our M2, which we have.
The M2.
So
CS.
yeah, so that would so GTS. Yeah, so
GTS.
GTS. Yeah. So that was built for that. So now I want to do something for 15th.
Okay.
I have an idea, but I'm not gonna.
Can you give us any little hints?
It might be a touring of some kind.
Okay. Oh, I'm not going to say it, but I think I know, right?
Yeah, I think you do.
Okay, cool. I think I know.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And all right, I think it's worth, just touching on a subject now before we kind of get back into the business aspect of what you do. And what we kind of touched on very small at the beginning of the podcast, which was an emotional
emotional day.
Yeah. So just for everyone, there'll be people listening to this podcast that probably don't know exactly what I do. I'd imagine not a lot, but obviously I do car features.
Yeah.
We have actually we've had your Evolve eVenturi RS3 on the channel before. We had it down at the OG Battles racing a 911 Turbo S, which was crazy.
Which no one went to race.
Exactly. The way you mate, I couldn't believe it when you stepped up. Like we were like, no one's gonna race this 911 Turbo S, 900 brake horsepower car, and I just thought like, let me see if Imran will bring the BM. Like let me holler at Imran,
which I would have done.
Yeah,
if it was available, but it wasn't.
When I give you a shout and you're like, BM's not ready, I'll bring the RS3. I thought, bro.
What did I say to you? Ask ES guys if they're okay with me bringing it, because they're my mates.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It was all love. And when you said they're your mates, I thought, all right, this is perfect. But I'm thinking RS3, I'm thinking, I don't know him, Brad. Like, you're a brave man. But then, obviously, when I saw what the car could do, it was incredible. It was incredible. And it really did open my eyes to what RS3s can do.
It was unfortunate. It was very wet that day.
Again.
But yeah, it did.
A very wet day.
Yeah.
It done a real good time. A real good time, should I say?
What was a quarter? Wasn't it 10 point?
I feel like it's a 10.3.
Yeah, 10.3 sounds about right. Yeah.
In the wet, semi-slicks, low boost.
Yeah.
I think 100 to 200 was low fours, maybe.
4.6, I think.
4.6.
Yeah.
Still amazing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And anyway, moving on from that day, it was real cool. And we ended that video on "We'll have you back in the dry," which I would have loved to do. And unfortunately, that can't happen now. But we we laugh, because if we didn't laugh, we'd cry, right?
Yeah.
So the video or the feature that we went out to do the other day, people wouldn't have seen yet. This podcast will actually
before that. Okay.
Yeah, it's going out before that video. So it's a real weird way round. But people would have seen on social media that it didn't end the way anyone would like to see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the feature, fortunately,
the feature was done.
The feature was done. So there's still a feature there, an amazing feature. And I want to take people back to that feature. In fact, they ain't even seen it. But in fact, I won't give away too much. But all I can say is just experiencing that, it made it even more of a tragedy, the way the day ended.
Yeah.
Feature ended very well.
Should we talk about it?
Let's talk about it. So feature ended. Now
I was on my way home.
You're on your way. Let them know.
So I'll take it. So
let them know.
Features ended, did a really good, I'm not going to spoil it, did a pretty good 0 to 60 time considering the conditions. I was happy with it. Mm-hmm. So saying goodbye, Jamie, great day. It's been awesome. I'm going to head home, start driving home, start seeing some heat haze coming out the bonnet. And I'm like, that's not right. Tractor guy goes past me, is looking at the car really funny. I'm like, something's off here. Car's still functioning, is working. There's no check engine lights. There's nothing. So I pull up, so drive past you where you're just packing up, and I'm like, smoke starting to come out. I'm like, Jamie, I think the car's on fire. And and I grabbed my phone because I thought, okay, if something's going on, I need to be able to make a phone call, right? Yeah. I opened the bonnet, which is probably a mistake, because as soon as I opened the bonnet, oxygen's gone in there, obviously, and just lit up the whole. And you even went to open. It was surreal. The engine, and I was like, Jamie, don't even bother trying, because you would have burnt it. Even I would, like, the flames will come out so much, and you were like sticking your hand in there.
It was surreal. I didn't. So if I can just kind of butt in a little bit there, like from my point of view, and now when this is happening, you've said the car's on fire, And I'm like, you know, like it didn't register.
Yeah.
Even when I saw the flames, I didn't know what was happening. Like, you know, it just, I've never experienced something like this before. And it was just so freak. It was so weird.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It just went from, you know, cruising normally to then this fire's coming out. And then you panic. And we went into a bit of a panic for only a short period of time. And I think from my point of view, it was because we were down like a small country road.
Yep.
There was nothing around. We quickly realised that both of us had no means of putting this fire out. And then the panic becomes, for me, it was like I was in a movie. I didn't know what was going on. The panic becomes, you just feel helpless.
It's like one of the slow motion moments, isn't it?
Definitely.
It's like, what do you do? It's like, okay, there's nothing I can do right now. So I phoned the fire brigade. Didn't even know where I was. I said, you're going to have to track the phone. At that point, I was
Is that
like,
what you're saying?
Yeah. I was like, I didn't even know, like, I didn't even think, okay, I need to go and Google, you know, Google Maps and have a look. I go, can you trace it from my phone? They go, yeah, don't worry. They did.
No.
Because that's what they said. They said, are you on X road?
Is that what they done?
Yeah, and then I asked you, didn't I? I go, Jamie, is this the
this
road we're on?
And I was like, come to think of it, no, they can track you.
They must have. That's what I said to the lady. She goes, don't worry.
I didn't know that.
And then she said, are you on this road? And I said, yes. She goes, okay, we got you.
Bro, do you know what's crazy, right? Obviously, I know that, like, you know, when it comes to, like, you know, FBI or MI5 or whoever the hell will want to trace you, your phone, you can be traced, right? I didn't think, like, the services had that power.
Yeah, because I think if you don't know where you are, how do they get to you?
It makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. So then me and you basically stepped away from the car. The flames were getting quite big at that point. We knew there was nothing we could do. We're just literally passengers at this point, watching it go down. You were saying to me, I don't believe how calm you are about this.
That's one thing I took away from it. And I'll delve into that in a sec. One thing I kind of just want to highlight is from seeing the flames, from when you first, like, the bonnet was like ajar. Like, when I come over to it, the bonnet was ajar and there was flames come out. From seeing that to the car being, from what I would imagine was unsavable, bro, it was like 30 seconds.
Yeah, probably.
It was no more than a minute.
No more than a minute, yeah.
You know, and that hit me. But going back to it, you were just calm. And again, there's some people in this world that, you know, it's fight or flight. And, you know, people react different to different situations. And I was like, this is 40 grand worth of engine build or however much mod spent on the car in total, on top of an amazing car, you know, and he's just calm and collected. What do you think that was? Why do you feel like
that's me? I process things very quickly. So when something like that happens, I don't think panic. I might panic or have that sense of panic for a very small period of time. And internally I settle it and I think solutions. Yeah. So that's like the initial panic happens, it's on fire. When I said to you it's on fire, I said, I've already gone through that process. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? I need to grab my phone because I need to phone someone. Then straight away, phone fire services. Mate,
but when you were phoning them, I was like, I was still flapping.
That's the way I work. I mean, that's experience. I've not always been like this. And it's something they should teach in school, but it's basically emotional intelligence. So it's not reacting with emotion to everything. We are human. We're going to react with a certain element of emotion, but it's knowing that you're going to react with that emotion and then settling it within yourself so you can then actually do something about it. So at work, a lot of the time we say solutions, not problems.
Okay.
So something's gone wrong, something's happened, or we need to resolve something. Let's not dwell on the problem because that doesn't help at all. What can we do?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The problem's already here.
Problem's here. What can we do?
Exactly.
And I think I learned, the thing is, I probably didn't learn about emotional intelligence until probably about 5 years ago when I was going through a rough period with my ex-business partner and trying to get out of the whole situation. But once you learn that, no one else can control you and try and manipulate you, if that makes sense. And it's very useful for everything.
Interesting. Honestly, and it was calming to see. Do you know what I mean? Do you know when look, it's your car at the end of the day, right? And when you're calm, I can be calm.
Yeah, correct.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So,
I mean, at that point, we see it burning, it's gone, right? What can I do?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm going to start crying about it. It's done, it's done. Phone the fire brigade, they're going to come put it out. What was I more concerned about? I was more concerned about those idiot cyclists going past the car and getting hurt by the flames.
Yeah.
And how many people do we say, look, do not go.
Do not go there. I didn't care.
They didn't care. That one guy,
Bro, they wanted to get to where they were going 2 seconds
and I
quicker than
said,
they
dude, you need to move away from there. And he's like, yeah, I think I do. And he stood there for another 2 minutes.
Literally, guys, like, he was standing in front of it or behind it, just like, yeah, I think I should move. And I'm thinking, bro, that's on race fuel. Like, this thing could go up at any minute.
That cyclist who came the other way, he stopped there. We're like, mate, do not come past here. He looked at it and he went through the flame.
Yeah, bro.
The flame was like 5 foot. He went through it.
I see a guy on a motorbike, right? He had one of those clippy up the helmets, right? And the flames are licking out the side of the car, literally engulfing the other side of the road, yeah? I see the guy come through it like Batman. He drove through the flames, bro. And I'm thinking, how much, like, are you really in that much of a rush?
How big were his balls?
Exactly. Maybe that's what he lived for. You know what I mean? Maybe he saw the smoke, got on his bike and rode through the fight. He might be, an adrenaline junkie. But anyway, look, what basically happened is, we had to stand there and wait. The brigade coming, shout out to the brigade coming, and obviously putting it out and,
having problems with the magnesium wheels.
Magnesium wheels, that was another thing.
I've never seen that before, but as I was joking to you,
we know they're real.
At least I know they're real magnesium.
Tell the people what that kind of why we're saying that. Like,
it's because like they got the main fire out, and then like there was something that just kept sparking out, like thermite or almost. And we're like, what the hell is that? I'm thinking, is that the fuel? What's causing that? And then they came over to us and said, what are the wheels made out of? And I said, they're made out of magnesium. They go, okay, no wonder. Yeah. And that's why the second fire engine came, because the guy told me that the powder they use.
Yes.
He said that machine was not working or something on that first fire engine.
Got you.
So the second one came and then they put it out.
So that's why 2 appliances came. Okay, so that's interesting. And he did actually say, and I overheard him say, that usually magnesium, they find that problem. There's like parts in
he said lots of interior parts of performance cars have magnesium. He says, they have a problem with that,
So basically, it was a shame me and you stood there and we watched what was an amazing car literally burn to the ground. And I think because the day or the feature ended on such a high, to go, like just that transition into such a low, it was crazy for me. But as I say, being with you, who's calm and concise, and with the mentality that it's happened, it's about solutions now. Yeah, no one's hurt. I think
that was the main thing for me. Look, no one's hurt. I phoned my business partner after I phoned the fire engine. I phoned Bilal, who's the co-founder of Venturi. That's his kind of baby. Do you know what I mean? He's the one who normally pilots the car at the events, because I'm driving the M5 or I'm driving the M3. And he really enjoyed going to all the race events this year, because he didn't normally come out with us, but he really had a thing for that in terms of like going out and actually enjoying driving it. And actually, he'd already said to me that when the car comes back on OG Battles and it's dry, he said, I want to take it. And I said, yeah, sure, that's cool. Amazing. It's cool for me. I only went because I knew you didn't want to go that time, but sure, you go and you do your thing. Okay. And at first he told me afterwards, he goes, I thought you were joking, because we pranked
hella banter. Yeah.
And he goes, he then realized by the tone of my voice that I was being serious, because we're not really that serious. And it's one of those things, isn't it? But look, when you gave me a lift back to the unit, and it got to, what was it, 3 o'clock? I hadn't eaten breakfast. Yeah, I was hungry. I said, can someone go and get me some lunch? And they're like, what do you want? I said, I want some peri. And one of my guys goes, flame grilled, yeah?
yeah, heard that.
But that's what we're properly savage. You have to, innit? It's like one of those things. Even when it was happening, Jamie, you said to me, bro, we're gonna look back on this and we're gonna laugh.
I said that. That was one thing. Like, I and we are now. And I know it's early days, and I know, there's still things that need to be kind of sorted or whatever. But
the other thing that's kind of not upsetting, but it's like the damage is so extensive.
We'll never know what happened.
I don't know what happened. I really want to know why this happened, because with that car, the build state it's in now is not changed. Yeah. Since we first started taking it to events. So it's done 2 VMAXs, terminal velocity, it's went to OG Battles, it's gone to Santa Pod, and we're finished filming with you, and we've done a couple of pulls, 2 launch controls. Yeah. I'm just cruising home, and
then that happened. And that's another thing. And it kind of is testament to the car too. But people will think, obviously, we were running meth. But the meth had actually run out before we'd done the 0 to 60s.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
So there was no meth.
There was no meth in the tank.
It wasn't like a meth line popped out or anything like that. So, again, we'll never know. But it was just such a freak accident. And then you know what? Hopefully, I can add a little picture of just for people who want to see, just in case they haven't seen. But moving on from that, and kind of on like a nice segue away from that, is the car was e-Venturi kind of demo car, wasn't it? And I wanted to kind of ask you a few questions about e-Venturi, kind of how it came about. Obviously, you've won a big award with that. And I wanted to start with obviously intakes, and you know, you touched on it briefly about intakes sometimes taking power away from a car. So there's quite a big, I don't know, there's a community out there who don't think intakes do anything for a car, right? So I want you to touch on why your product does what it does, and just kind of debunk anything people might think.
It's quite simple, right? If an intake can either maintain or keep a lower inlet temperature than the stock airbox, and it can flow better and smoother, it's going to make power. And that's not just sticking it on the dyno and showing what the power is. You should be able to data log that and have a look at the IAT difference between the stock and the aftermarket one. And if it's got a MAF, you can measure the airflow at the MAF. Okay. So if the IAT is lower and the MAF value is higher.
Just for people, sorry.
Yep.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, MAF's airflow meter. So when you have an engine and you have an airbox, then usually some cars have, some cars don't. A lot of cars don't have it anymore. You have another unit which sits and it measures the airflow. And then between that, the ECU and the O2 sensors, the car can kind of knows where to fuel, if that makes sense, knows how much air it's getting in. So as long as those things are being improved, the car is making more power. And if you want to test that, you can test that on the dyno, you log it, as long as those figures are correct. And then you can also draggy the car now and show that it's working. So we try to do all three of those things. And what's unique about the Venturi intakes is that we have a patent on the design. So Bilal has, who's the co-founder of Venturi, he has a PhD in fluid dynamics.
Interesting. And what is, would you break that one down?
So fluid dynamics is how fluid or air basically moves through certain areas. So he understands like aerodynamic principles.
So it's basically
aerodynamics. Let's just call it that. So the Venturi housing, which is painted, he had this idea in university, but wasn't able to do it until 3D printers were available, essentially to bring the idea to life. So the cone is reversed and the whole housing acts as a Venturi lip. So back in the day when you had an intake, if it didn't have a little like trumpet, then it wasn't going to work because the air would just butt up against whatever was there. It allows the air to smoothly transition into it. So on any Venturi pod housing that you see, if it's one of those intakes, the whole housing acts as a Venturi. So it actually accelerates the air as it's going through.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's where the name comes from, because that's Venturi principle, and we just stuck an E on
sense.
it. So that's where the name comes from.
So would you say then, and this would be quite interesting to know, that an open filter is just it's making your car slow, or you're losing power?
Yeah, in most cases it is, because if the IAT is high, then the car would, depending on how sophisticated the ECU is, the car would normally back down the ignition timing to protect itself. So that's another thing. On an intake that works, we've seen on some cars, like say for example an E92 M3, because the IAT is like a couple of degrees lower, the car will make 1 degree higher ignition on the dyno, because it's not able to reach its full ignition target because the IAT is a bit too high, if that makes sense. Yeah, and on a turbo car, you can tell it's working more efficiently by looking at the wastegate duty cycle.
Okay. Interesting.
So what I'm saying is that even like if you see a dyno, like you can log the car yourself and see if it's working. And the other thing now is if people are saying, okay, do they work or do they not work? Venturi is 6 years old. We sell between 500 and 750 intake kits a month. If they weren't working,
they wouldn't be selling.
And
you know,
let's be honest, a lot of big tuners use our products now.
Yeah. I was actually quite surprised to know, like, you know, as I say, we've been speaking quite a bit, and you've got a good network. You know, my
network is absolutely amazing.
You work with some serious people. You are serious people yourselves, and I know that by, you know, just by, you know, the other day, which was unfortunately the reason I had to come, or not had to come, but I dropped you back to Evolve.
Yep.
And you gave me the tour of the place, and I wasn't sure the size of the operation.
Well, you don't know these days, do you? Because like social media can make you look absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And
You're
you don't
right.
know what's behind everything. But yeah, I showed you our 3D scanner, our 3D print room, where the Venturi intakes are produced.
Mate, I didn't even think you made, like, I hadn't deeped it like that. When I first come in and you introduced me to the boys, I was like, all right, cool. This is the workshop. And then he was like, come around here. Yeah. And it was just even more stuff. And then you brought me through to the 3D printers.
Yeah.
And then you took me out of there and you took me into a room, which I thought was, I don't know, maybe you keep stock or something.
Yeah.
Man, it was a whole team in there. It was like a lab.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on in here? And he's like, this is where we make. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, it kind of blew my mind. I just didn't think like, you know, obviously some people outsource the work to wherever, but it was all going down there at Evolve or Eventuri or whatever you want to call it. So, that was sick. And again, that kind of moves me on to my next question, which is an amazing operation. The Venturi brand is a beast, or it seems like it's massive, right?
Honestly, it's like grown legs by itself, and it's just literally just like we used to joke about it when we first started it. I said I wanted to create the Akrapovic of intakes. Yeah, that was my goal because they did everything so well. The marketing was slick, the images were slick, so everything for me right from the beginning had to be done in a proper way. It was always going to be a distributor set up, so not selling to, so Venturi doesn't sell to end users. It is a manufacturer, and we only sell to distributors. Got you. If that makes sense. Yeah. So like in America, I only have one customer. In Germany, I only have one customer who then sells that product to other dealers who then sell it to the end users, because then you can make it truly scalable. Yeah. Okay. So I always had that in the mind. I wanted to make it like that. And we used to joke and say, if someone doesn't want to come on board, they're going to miss the train. Yeah. Yeah. It's a locomotive. Yeah. You can't stop it. You're either getting on board and you're reaping some rewards. Did you feel that like that from an early stage? You knew. I knew there was a massive gap. Why? I knew there was a massive gap. By that time I'd been in the industry for 7 years. The only high-end intake brand was Group M, who are from Japan. Very expensive. We would sell them like every now and again, but it never looked like any proper engineering thought had got into it. At that stage, the only kind of engineered intakes I saw was probably AEM. So we saw there was a huge gap in the market for a premium intake brand that worked, that wasn't as expensive as Group M. Got you. So we basically were maybe 10 to 20% cheaper than them. Okay. So where their intake was $3,000, our intake was 2,000. Got you. And that wasn't done on purpose. We worked out, okay, these are our margins. This is where we kind of want to be. So a lot of people aspired to have that one, but it was way too expensive. And we saw that there was a gap. So there was either cheap rubbish or there was super, super expensive. You found that middle ground. And we found a really cool middle ground, and we just nailed it. Everything was right from the beginning. Bilal's an amazing engineer. He designed stuff that really worked to the point where people would not believe. Like, we would go to Acid's dyno on MSL. Shout out to MSL. Shout out to Acid. And dyno the cars, he's got no vested interest in this. And like an RS5, the 4.2 V8, making 17 wheel horsepower. He's like, what the wheel, fuck? Jeez, even he's like, oh my God, what the hell have you guys done here? Yeah. This is insane. But this is my point. That intake came out 2015. People are still buying it because so many more other people have bought the car and thought, these figures are a bit bullshit. I'm going to go and test it myself. And they test it, and then they put their dyno graphs up. Yeah. And they draggy it before and afterwards. It's not a small amount. Yeah. Yeah. And our ethos is this: if we make an intake for a car and it doesn't work, we won't say it does anything. I'd rather say it just makes a sound. Yeah. You can buy it if you want to buy it. Yeah. We're not claiming any power on this particular intake. Is that something that you do, or so we did that on the early N55 intake. It never made any power, but then we never claimed any power. But people said it looks nice, and they want it. They like the brand. Yeah. Yeah. But we never claimed any horsepower for it. Okay. But do you know what? Right. So obviously, what you're saying, it's you're not lying. Because, and the reason I say that is, and it's a good kind of segue to the next subject, because you actually won an award. And again, I don't really know much about the award, so you'll have to school me on it too. Yeah, so we won the Queen's Award for Enterprise in international trade.
How hard is that to win? What other companies were you up against? How do you win it?
So you have to nominate yourself for it, and like, believe me, there is so many companies who put themselves forward for it. Yeah, it goes through, I think, 2 rounds with judges who sit on the panel who are business people themselves.
Interesting.
So the International Trade Award is for exponential growth in exports. Okay. So what you essentially have to do is, we sold X amount this year, X amount this year, X amount in the 3rd year, and they look at the percentage growth you've had on your exports. So not your UK sales, on your exports.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, say, look for like 100, 200% growth like every year.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we entered, and we won it. No way. Honestly, I received, like, we knew we won it, and it's like, yeah, you're going to go Buckingham Palace.
Oh, you went to Buckingham Palace? Bro, like,
I'm from Luton. I went to Buckingham Palace. I can't believe it. Man. So I remember the day. We knew it was happening, right? So essentially, we won the award for. So it's like you're being rewarded for the amount of product you are exporting out of the UK that's made in the UK. So I remember the day, and we knew it was happening, right? And a letter lands on the, through the door. It's like really nice paper. It's got gold writing on it, HRH. I know instantly what it is. And I'm not, if you know me or see me, I'm not that excitable.
Yeah.
I'm proper chill. Even when something like mind blowing happens, it's like I'm just I'm like, I know what it is. I run to the door. I'm like to my wife, look what's come. And we open it up, and it's like written invitation on this day, blah blah blah. Has a dress code in there. I'm like, shit, I haven't worn a suit for years. I have to go buy a suit now.
You know what, Imran, that's inspiration, mate. Like, how did that make you feel as a boy who's grown up in Luton, who's worked, and I say Luton, and I don't mean that as a derogatory way or anything, but
no, but it shows
you haven't had a silver spoon in your mouth.
No.
You've grafted for everything, and then you've made this idea, and then now someone, I don't know exactly if it's the Queen or whatever, but someone who moves in very, very high circles in the UK economy, whatever, has recognised what you're doing. How did that make you feel?
Very, very proud, like super proud. So, and obviously for Bilal as well and our families, because it might be worth you having Bilal on as a separate guest at some point, because he's got an interesting journey himself.
I'd love to.
But before me and him co-founded Eventuri, he probably had about 3 or 4 failed businesses. He could have gone and worked for someone like Dyson and got paid big money. Before he started Eventuri, that was his choice. That was the crossroad he was at. But I don't want to go too much into that. Then he decided to join forces with me to make Eventuri, and obviously he's happy he made that decision.
Definitely.
Now, it was a proud moment, isn't it? Going to Buckingham Palace, like we were there. Prince Charles was there. Princess Beatrix was there. There's all these captains of industry there. But I was much more interested in meeting the other people who had won, because obviously they were all there as well. And it was really interesting to see, like, really encouraging to see, like, young people who'd started businesses and real entrepreneurs actually doing the same thing. Do
you know what? There's something that I take away from now, and perhaps in earlier years I didn't, but now, and perhaps it's because I'm more of a creative person now, but I get a buzz when I'm around creative people now.
Yeah.
And the feeling that must have gave you, man, I'd have been buzzing.
Yeah. It was honestly buzzing.
Yeah.
But, and then it was around dinner time. So another really cool thing was we could actually park our cars inside.
No.
They gave us car passes.
What did you drive?
So I took the M2.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and then Bilal took the F90.
No.
Yeah, so we rocked up. The cars are like popping and banging.
Yes,
and then, like, I come up to the police because they check your car, right? They put like the mirror underneath and check for bombs and all that kind of stuff.
Hang on, wait, what?
Yeah, and then
were they checking the white man though?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really notice that, but I was expecting to be checked. So they're checking the cars, and the first copper goes, "Oh, that's a nice car, mate. What, just leave me the keys while you're inside." I'm like, yeah, good one, mate. Don't worry about it. And then the second copper done exactly the same thing.
Oh.
So when you go through the arches, so Buckingham Palace has got the arches. So we went through there. We drove the cars.
Drove into their courtyard.
Into the courtyard.
What?
Yeah, it was surreal, dude. Because I'm driving the M2. It's got a big wing on it, roll cage and everything. And
that's a moment. That's got to be nuts. One of them moments where you're like, what am I doing?
It's nuts.
I'm in Buckingham Palace in an M2.
Yeah.
Bro. mind blown.
Yeah, properly mind blown. So yeah, we get in. The second copper says the same thing. He goes, "Oh, just leave me the keys while you're inside. I want to take it for a drive." I'm like, "Ha, funny one. Your mate done the same thing anyway." But it's good banter, right? Yeah. So yeah, we parked the cars up and we went inside. But yeah, when I saw the car passes, I was like, "Oh yeah,
that's it."
Cool. So I've got pictures of the cars inside the courtyard of Buckingham.
Oh, that's sick.
Palace.
No,
and we don't normally run front plates, so I had to like stick front plate.
Yeah, of course. But you have to go as legal as possible, innit? Like, you know what I mean?
Of course.
No, that's wicked. And once again,
so now we get to stick that. So if you see the gold E on all of our boxes, so we're allowed to use that for 5 years now. We're allowed to have a flag outside.
Only 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
Why 5 years?
That's what they give you.
Just in case you fall off.
Yeah, just in case you fall off. And maybe what we'll do is, so that one was for international trade. So that's for export, right? But they also do one for innovation.
Okay.
So we want to next time apply for the innovation award and see if we can get that, because we've obviously you have to have a patent for the product, which we have now, which took 5 years and a hell of a lot of money to get. So we have a patent on the product, so now we can apply for the innovation award, but we're timing it so we can try and do it towards the end of the 5 years.
Okay,
so we
can
keep
it rolling. Nah, good on you, bro. And with your drive and your kind of your knowledge in the product, I hope, and I hope you get it. I think you could. You've done it once.
Yeah, I've done it once.
I
think
again,
we can do
right?
it again. Yeah.
So and that's cool. And now I kind of want to change the subject onto back onto a kind of a social media kind of YouTube aspect. You are a YouTuber yourself to a certain extent. If people don't know
I'm a business. I'm an entrepreneur, but I just happen to have a YouTube channel because I am a marketer at heart. If you ask me what my core skill is, I would say sales, marketing, PR.
Okay.
And I recognize that we should be on YouTube. A while ago, I never did it. And I had people around me who were doing it and they're quite big and they're like, mate, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Get on there.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing the same thing to other people.
Yeah.
Now, like, you guys are crazy. Yeah. Like, employ someone to make the videos. Just do it. So we do have our own YouTube channel. We're on 80,000 subs now.
Yeah. I'll leave the
it's growing like organically. So we make 2 videos a week, but we try and give a bit more high value. We don't have clickbait.
Yeah.
I try and make them as, like, a lot of people say what our 10-minute video is so compacted that someone will talk waffle to try and make their video 10 minutes. But I don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah. You're straight to the point.
Straight to the point. Just deal with it.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be a bit more personality in there, which I want to maybe start a vlog, which is more casual, because I don't think people get a true sense of who we are. We're serious when it comes to what we're doing, but we are absolute jokers.
Well, bro, this is it. This is it, right? So, and again, going back to what we're doing now, right? How often do we get a chance to do this on our channels and just kick it to show people the different side of you or the side they don't see? Because again, you're straight to the point, like I am perhaps when I'm out with a video, focusing on what I'm filming, right? But you obviously with a marketing background and a kind of a knowledge of what YouTube can do, the power of it. Now, you went to a drag race with Carwell, and going back to it, you went with the RS3, I think. And I think, in fact, you took a couple cars, right?
We took the RS3 and we took Ricky's F90 M5 because my M5 is currently having a sleeve block, so it wasn't available. Otherwise, mine would have gone.
Got ya. Now, on that day, from what I remember watching the video, I remember that, I don't know if it's just the way that Carwell edited it, and I don't know, but it seemed like the cars were struggling that day, or maybe they weren't struggling. Maybe Matt Watson, for guys who don't know, Matt Watson is the mate who basically
he's the presenter.
He was struggling to make the car work how it should, right?
Yeah, let's be honest, right? With the RS3, it is raw. You've been in it now. It's not just a car you can jump in and drive. But I'll just break that day down so you can understand. So we were told to get there at 11 o'clock. We didn't start running till like 3 o'clock. It starts getting dark at 4. Everything was like super rushed. Normally it's not that rushed. I've been on quite a few of these Carwow drag races before.
Okay.
And everything has worked flawlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very rushed. Like, one car would have an issue, one car would have an issue, and we didn't have time to like actually look at what was going on. Like with the RS3, we should have basically been able to plug a laptop in, have a look at why it's tripping, and fix it. What we found out afterwards is that Methline had come out.
Ah, interesting.
So that's what the problem with the RS3 was.
Oh, so,
because I came to OG Battles the week after.
Oh, was it the week after?
Yeah, because your video came out first.
Yeah,
they
you're
were
right,
very.
actually.
They got so Carwow got the video out very quickly. Do you know why?
No way, go on.
Because they knew I'd been with you,
No way.
and they wanted to get it
Carwow
out.
know about me?
Yeah,
You're joking. Hey, Carwow. Hey, give me a shout then. Hook me up then.
yeah. So they said,
that's
we know
sick.
your car's been filmed at officially gassed, and
that's
we want to
sick.
get the video out before. So I think they rushed the video as well. But yeah, the editing didn't make it look good. Ricky's car, the ghost kept like every time Yanni went to restart the car, the ghost would kick in.
Yeah.
So then that was causing a lot of issues with the starts and everything like that. But yeah, I get your point. Like a lot of people saw that as negative. I actually got that video on Saturday morning, and they said, "Are you okay with this?"
Okay, so there was you.
I don't know whether if I said no, they would have stopped it. I would hope so, but then I was like, you know what? This is real.
Yeah.
This stuff happens. These cars are not normal. They're not normal cars, right? This is a reality. And if any tuners or any people who tune their cars to this kind of level think everything's hunky-dory all the time, you know, it's not.
We're talking about 1,000 brake horsepower modified cars, right? And that's something I did see in the comments. You was running against a 992
Turbo
S,
S,
which is an amazing car. And people are like, well, the Turbo S wins because it didn't break down or whatever. All right, fair enough. That's cool. That's a car that's, you know, it's come out the factory. It's 200 grand or whatever, and it's come out like that. But you're pushing cars that are never meant to be anywhere
near that. And the other thing as well, who's gonna have like, in a way afterwards, I was like thinking, okay, if they've done this now and they've really shown the rawness of what happens, right? So before this, I'll be honest with you, every single car that we've had on there, we've had a lot, not had a single issue. I've seen other cars when I've been on the shoot, tuned ones have issues and they haven't put it out, right?
Okay.
So I'm thinking now, which tuner is going to be brave enough to go take their cars and race them when someone else is driving them, like because Matt will drive them, whatever, and think in the back of their mind, are they thinking now, shit, if something happens now, is this going to go on YouTube? I've been there afterwards again. I took Ricky's car like last week.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and it performed flawlessly.
Amazing. Well, this is the thing, and with modified cars, and like, don't get me wrong, like I understand some people aren't into modified cars because they do like the possibility of things going wrong. But what people have to realize, and I'll get on to kind of what I wanted to ask you, is that with the modified car game, bro, things happen. We're pushing.
Let's be honest. You know that RS3 set itself on fire. A few people said, "Oh, it's highly modified. That's why it's done it." Fair enough. It could be that, but do stock cars not set themselves on fire? Yeah. McLarens, Porsches, Ferraris, Lambos. The list goes on.
Exactly.
So it's almost like we're held to an even higher standard than an OEM. How can we be?
Yeah,
it's not. It's
don't
not
make sense,
right.
does it?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all.
When you think about it like that, but I just feel like what perhaps fuels people, say, talking negatively about when a tuning company goes wrong is perhaps different tuning companies or people who have had their car tuned by different companies.
Yeah,
and they say,
it's
a team, innit? It's a mentality, innit?
Humans are tribal.
There you go.
Yeah, whether it's football, whether it's whatever. But being in this industry for this long, that has kind of always been there, but social media has like amplified that crazy amounts to the point where I don't understand it. It's like I don't think I see my customers doing it that much. If I did, I would probably have like a word with them. It's fine, they want to support us, but don't be out there just talking crap about other people, because that's not what we.
It almost makes you as a brand look like you're telling them.
That's not what we're about. But I don't think they do. I don't think our customer base is particularly like that. They want to support us, but I don't think they'll go out and badmouth other people publicly. I would hope not, and I don't really want those kind of people as my customers, if that makes sense.
So going back to the video, and obviously it coming, you know, the video, it ended the way it ended, like, you know, perhaps a bit of a negative on the company. Yeah. How did that affect you? Was there backlash?
Do you know what? There was no backlash. As I said to you, you know, like you'd expect there to be some, okay, we're cancelling jobs, we're not doing orders, like we're not going to come to you anymore. Honestly, it's made zero difference.
Zero difference.
If anything, I can't put it down to whatever, but our business is still growing. You know, we're doing even more than we're doing before. And I have had quite a few people who have phoned up and said, you're really brave for letting that go out. And you know what? It's real.
It's real. And you know,
it's real. And we understand you pushing these cars. It's not a normal stage 1 and stage 2. And even if it was, right? Turbocharged car, how common is it for a core pack to fail? How common is it for a spark plug to blow out?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when you're running more boost, it happens.
Bro, my turbos were failing on my F80 M3 with stock turbos at like 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
No tune on it.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
So yeah, in terms of like negativity, yeah, there was a little bit of undercurrent, but I don't think it was from general, I don't know, whoever, but I think when you're kind of out there, right, it's like anything, people want to try and pull you down. And before that point, there was no thing they could do that with, and it almost felt like that's what they're doing. But you know what? When we're doing what we're doing, when we're on social media, we are putting ourselves out there. You're putting yourself out there. There's going to be people, for whatever reason, they don't like you as a person. They'll sling negative comments. You'll be like, what the hell have I done to you?
Bro, we spoke on this too.
It is what it is.
Like, you know, as much as you might try, unfortunately, in this world, you know, and I do try to please people, but you'll never please everyone.
No. And that's, as I said to you earlier as well, you're never going to please everyone. So just do whatever makes you happy.
That's right.
But coming back to that point, it didn't affect us at all. And I was slightly concerned about it, but it worked out in the end. It hasn't affected us at all. But you're right. I think the negative stuff comes, like, I haven't had any customers saying, I'm not coming to you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Well, I think that's probably because you've got a proven track record. Before, it's not like you're a new tuning company on the scene.
I was
and
thinking about this, right?
You know what I mean?
You know, like if you think of a football player, for example, right? And he's a good football player, and he has an off game.
Not like you're not.
He hasn't
he's
just
never
suddenly.
playing exactly.
He hasn't suddenly just become like a rubbish player, has he? Do you know what I mean?
Do you know
like,
what I feel though? Like with a lot of it, sometimes like people look at it, you're as good as your last video, or you're as good as your last product, or whatever, and they forget what work you put in and how. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But kind of obviously getting to know you, I'm not surprised you weren't too worried, and I'm like, you know, I mean, it's good to hear you talk on that. Yeah, bro. You know, I pretty much asked the questions I wanted to ask you today.
Okay, cool.
And it's been real cool kicking it.
How long has that been?
I think we're over the hour mark.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, bro.
Dude, that felt like 10 minutes.
That's what it's about, man. It's just a space to kick it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I'd love to have you back on at some point too.
So yeah, we've talked about that. So we want to do my dyno cell should be up and running end of this month, hopefully. So your Audi, when the turbo's on, let's get it on the dyno, do the testing with the intake.
That's right.
Because I've never tested it on a hybrid turbo or big power car before. And if that all works out, then we'll come to OG.
That's right.
Runway, and we will run the car stock airbox, time it, put the Venturi on there, time it again.
That'll make for a kick-ass video, bro.
That'd be cool.
So before we go, where can people find you?
Yep. So if you go to my personal work Instagram, it's imran.evolve, and then I have all the company Instagrams on there. YouTube is Evolve Automotive. And if you guys are interested in the business aspect of it, I'm actually on LinkedIn and I post a lot on there. And that's just my name, Imran Arshad. Because although I am very passionate about cars, I think I'll end it by saying actually business is more interesting for me than the cars are at this stage.
Okay. All right. Well, on that bombshell, Imran, it's been a pleasure, bro.
You too, bro. Thank
you so much, man.
Thank you.
Bro.